Outside, but we're going to be talking about some of the ICE protests going on. Now, as I've said already, I don't want to cover the protests, but they're important. And this morning we're going to cover a specific angle on that, and that is that these protests are happening in schools. And what I mean by happening in schools, they're doing walkouts where the entire student body of whole schools are walking out to go and do ICE protests. And some of these, and I'm sure you can imagine which ones, what's really going on is they're leaving school under the pretense of doing ICE protests, and then what they're actually doing is in fact going and just harassing people in various places. Just real quick, I'm not getting the Rumble chat over here on the organized side, so let me pop that out to the, there we go. Now I've got the pop out handy, and I can see the chats from Rumble, and I can see the chats from YouTube. Good, there we go. Oh, of course, as soon as I say that, there's Sergeant Major popping up on Rumble, so now I've got them coming in both sides. Cool. And so I see Sergeant Major said, Phil says 6 more weeks. That's unfortunate. Lil Cam's with us. And I see Lil Cam popping up on Rumble and YouTube, pulling double duty, doing his patriotic duty for the channel. Appreciate that. Patrick's with us this morning. Good morning, brother. I see you too, Desert Rat. Good morning. Good morning. Can't wait to get you guys out to visit sometime in the near future. Maybe this summer. That'd be awesome. We should talk about that. Then there's Ken and Aaron are with us. Hell, and Pit Danny joins us as well. Excellent. So got all the important people in already. So let's start with this article from the Associated Press. And y'all. Yep. Protesters closed schools and stores during a nationwide strike against Trump's immigration policies. And the headline's already a problem. It says that they're protesting against Trump's immigration policies. They're not. They're specifically protesting against law enforcement enforcing the law. Now, there's an important distinction here. This is something that really, really needs to be discussed in this context. The current raft of ICE enforcement, yes, is directed by Donald Trump, who is the commander-in-chief and is the top cop. He's the head of the executive branch, right? He has the responsibility for law enforcement. Understand that a major part of how we got to where we are with the immigration crisis that we have is Joe Biden, while he was the executive, while he was the law enforcement chief at the top of the executive branch, went out of his way intentionally to choose not to enforce the law. In fact, he chose to not do the job he was hired to do. It is the fact that it's Donald Trump's policy which surges these ICE agents into the various cities. But let's be very clear. There are no new laws which are being enforced. It's not as if Donald Trump came into office and suddenly wrote a whole bunch of new laws which say, well, brown people can't be here because we're all white and we don't like the brownies. That's not the case. Laws prohibiting the unauthorized, unvetted entry of the United States sovereign border by hostile foreign invaders have existed on the books for decades. Many, many decades. In many cases, these laws have pre-existed living memory. Okay? So there is no new enforcement action. So when the headline says a nationwide strike against Trump's immigration policies, that is misleading. They're trying to leave you with the understanding and the belief that somehow deporting hostile foreign immigrants is a novel concept, and Donald Trump is just the evil white man that hates all the brownies. And that's just not true. So, protesters held no work, no school, no shopping strikes around the U.S. on Friday to oppose the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. And a lot of the bigger, more visible protests, obviously what's going on in Minnesota and especially in Minneapolis, those are very visible. But and that's obviously a blue city and a blue state just absolutely ate up with blue cancer. The communists and the Somalis have taken absolute command of the state of Minnesota, and we should start treating it like an occupied territory within our sovereign borders and conduct a full scale operation to reclaim that territory. Right? That essentially what that state is doing is it is acting as if it has seceded from the Union successfully. And it's not the only one. It's just the one that's most visible at the moment. The demonstrations took place amid widespread outrage over the killing of Alex Preddy, an intensive care nurse who was shot multiple times. Okay. And again, they're trying to lie to you without actually doing it. An intensive care nurse, yes. Okay, cool. This is in fact a lie. He was an intensive care nurse at some point in his past. At the time that he died by suiciding himself into a cop, he was not an intensive care nurse. Now, many things can be true at the same time. It could have been the case that he was at that time a violent rioter engaged in several felonies while armed and actively fighting and attacking the police. And also, he was employed as an intensive care nurse by some medical facility, by all accounts, a VA hospital. Except, and in that hypothetical, two things can be true at the same time. He is a violent rioter and an intensive care nurse. Okay. My mother-in-law is a nurse. I've got cousins who are traveling nurses. Right? Great people. They are not great people because they are nurses. Now, it happens that in that profession, they are afforded the opportunity to do great things. And because of the nature of the people that they use that opportunity well, and they do great things with that opportunity. And in fact, that they're great people with deep, caring hearts was an initial motivating factor, one of probably many, which drew them toward that profession to begin with. But what is not the case is that becoming a nurse makes you a good person. Any more than becoming a doctor or a police officer or a soldier makes you a good person. I was a good person before I enlisted, not because I enlisted. Now, it is also possible that service in a noble profession can improve the character of a person by exposure to other people of like character. However, in the nursing profession in modernity, that seems to be a dubious expectation because, as we've seen, there are not just several anecdotal stories of nurses and doctors around the country threatening to either deny care to people based on their political orientation. It's like, oh, if I see a MAGA hat, I'm not gonna let that guy in my emergency room. There are more than a few anecdotal pieces of evidence of nurses saying, oh, if I get a maggot in my hospital, I'm going to inject him with some kind of, and they'll list some kind of paralytic agent or whatever. Several incidents of that, but no, there are entire hospitals that are exclaiming that they will take deleterious measures against people if they come into the hospital and are known to have been conservative, been MAGA supporters, etc. So that idea that the profession itself is going to improve the character of people is already pretty well put to bed. But in the case of Preddy, remember I said two things can be true at the same time, but in this case, two things were not true at the same time, because Preddy was apparently fired from his position as a VA nurse some 3 months before this incident, precisely because, according to the letter from that hospital administrator, because of concerning behavior from Preddy in the hospital. And that concerning behavior was not the expression of undesirable political ideology or motivation. Apparently, he was creeping on patients, and I won't go much further down that. I won't go any further down that particular rabbit hole. But I wanted to point out that that's an important piece right there. Alex Preddy, an intensive care nurse. No, Alex Preddy, the violent fucking rioter, got himself shot by fighting cops. You know that song, "I Fought the Law and the Law Won"? It often does, because they're armed. They're well armed. Pitt Danny says that Preddy's parents even said that he was worrying them. And that, hey, if you're worried about your kids, guys, talk to them. I don't care how old they are, talk to them. Sergeant Major, if you're worried about me, talk to me. Tell me I'm fucking up. I'll listen to you. A sign at a cannabis shop indicates it's closed for the general strike to support the state's immigrant community. Okay, there's a whole raft of comedy that I don't think I'm well prepared enough to go down right there. The people of the Twin Cities have shown the way for the whole country. To stop ISIS' reign of terror, we need to shut it down, said one of the many websites and social media pages promoting actions in communities around the United States. Some schools in Arizona, Colorado, and other states preemptively canceled classes in anticipation of mass absences. Okay. Sergeant Major asks if I'm cold. I am. I am indeed. Actually, no, it's not too bad in here. I've got my little heater running, and I've got my waffles on. Oh, Patrick Brown says pharmacy techs are pretty awesome as well. Just saying. Yeah, shout out to my cousin Lauren there. Thank you. Oh. And to Ma Wilbanks, who's in the chat with us. Some schools in Arizona, Colorado, and other states preemptively canceled classes. That right there, some schools preemptively canceled classes. That is evidence that the schools themselves are complicit. And I want to show you something. You got to scroll up a bit. My ChatGPT conversation this morning to prep for the show. ChatGPT said, what's verifiably happening is a wave of student walkouts, campus rallies during school hours tied to the national ICE shutdown / ICE out activism. And in most of the on-ground reporting, districts and principals are explicitly saying it's not school sanctioned, and not teacher organized. But the effect is the same. Instructional time is getting turned into political street theater, and it's popping up in multiple regions at once. So, and then she gives me the list. There's a long list of specific schools. Well, she goes on to say what you can honestly claim on air This is not a one-off. Multiple states saw it. It's reaching younger grades too, middle schools, and at least one K through 8 reporting. We've got several K through 8 schools. A lot of schools that are actually sending, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds out to protest and training them to protest. And she says what the reporting does not consistently support is that teachers are using kids or teacher-led protests during class. And that, remember, that's ChatGPT searching the internet, reading articles, and saying, okay, so nobody's actually reporting that teachers are leading this. That's an interesting piece of data by itself. Because, here we go.
National Day of Protest for all the violent things that we're seeing happening across our city. Here at the Chloe Day School, we learn about service and acts of service from Martin Luther King. And so to end our month of service, it's too cold outside for us to.
So we learned from Martin Luther King that we should get out there and stop the evil police officers from taking all the foreign pedophiles out of our country. This one's gone viral. Mom pulls daughter
having everyone
talk.
I'm pulling my child from school.
After staff encouraged students to walk out to protest ICE in the state.
2 days. This is fucking unbelievable.
Right, so there's Mama Bear going in to get her kid out. This next one is in Meadow Creek High School in Georgia. Lives of TikTok very helpfully shows us that the Georgia average is 40% for reading proficiency. The school's average for reading proficiency is 20%. Georgia average for math, 39%. This school's math proficiency, 20%. So these grossly uneducated students who have been done a grave disservice by their teachers, merely allowing them to be unintelligent, just completely short-circuiting their education. Here they are, instead of improving on that, being encouraged to go out and protest ICE in the street with signs and all that. And you can see in the background, several of those signs are professionally produced signs. So the NGOs are getting involved here. The paid organizers are getting involved here. Aaron says, link to my text to you about Mississippi. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Y'all just set it up with some dead air there because I started a video and I forgot to switch the coverage shot.
No fear, no hate, no ICE in our state. No fear, no hate, no ICE in our state.
Yeah, and I mean the chants, the no fear, no hate, no ICE in our state, it's retarded. And the idea that it's not being done by teachers, this is a teacher.
Majority of my class was out protesting today, and to you students, I noticed your absence and I missed you. You shouldn't have to be out protesting for your families, protesting against deportations, violence, and injustice. But you are. And for that, I am so incredibly proud of you.
You see the bird hands. I mean, this guy, this unacceptable. So, and then let me get to this one. What are the kids doing when they leave the school to protest ICE? Oh, they're marching through Walmart. St. Michael of Cigarillo says, sure, I would have left class to protest, but I would have to protest, but I would have ditched around the first corner I seen and went and did something else. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. If when I was in high school, guaranteed, if I'm 15, 16, 17 years old and the whole school is walking out to go and protest, I might go to the movies. I mean, if everybody's leaving anyway, I might take it personally. I might have taken advantage of that when I was a kid. Patrick says that blonde idiot is the poster boy for everything wrong with government education. Yes, he is. And I mean, I've got examples for days. Right here we have some more students. And what are they doing? Oh yeah, let's just mug this old man. We're just going to walk up and search this old man's pockets and see if he's got anything. Right, and here you've got a teacher.
I don't know why it's making me
getting
so
emotional because her students went out to protest.
I guess because like being here in Seattle and being a teacher here in North Seattle specifically, there's not a lot of like Latino teachers.
Why do you think that is? And of course, here are some of the teachers. Here are the mugshots of some of the teachers who are leading these protests. And yeah, they look exactly the way you would expect them to look. Exactly the way you would expect them to look. Right? Like this one, Kane Gibbard up here, with the septum piercing and all that. I think that's a dude and woman face. That's where we're at right now. Your public schools are encouraging children to go out and engage in criminal activity. Right? Okay. Yeah. Right to speech, right to protest. Okay, cool, fine. Right to peacefully assemble. They're sending these children out to block the streets. Oh yeah. Aaron, I'm not gonna pull up any more data points right now. That's one of those TLDRs for the show at the moment, because I'm gonna go ahead and make the point and then I gotta wrap it up and get to work. The Patrick says the fact that getting a teaching degree is easy to obtain is a sad commentary. Cade says, I say it every time, the USSR is winning the long game Cold War. Yeah, Yuri Bezmenov was right about everything. Yuri Bezmenov and McCarthy were right about everything. Right? That is what you're seeing out there. You are seeing a communist children's crusade. The schools are actively working against the interests of your children and yourself and your nation. Right? There has never been a time in the history of the world that it was more important for you to homeschool your children. If you are a parent and you are sending your children off to these shitholes, you are doing them a grave disservice. Okay? I have changed my opinion on homeschooling and on the problems with public schools. When we first started doing this show a dozen years ago, Rush Limbaugh was still alive, right? Neil Bortz had just retired. Bortz and Limbaugh and I were all saying basically the same thing on this. You shouldn't be trusting your children to these government schools. Government schools are bad because it's the government indoctrinating your children and giving them a measly and insufficient education precisely because the people in charge of the education system globally, but especially in the United States, are not interested in your children receiving a viable, useful education. They want them to be just educated enough so that they can go out into the world and work as mindless little debt slave automatons for the rest of their natural lives. That is the opinion that I held and expressed on more than one occasion and rather vehemently for decades. That has changed. And to be clear, I still hold that that was the case back then, but I missed something back then. It took me a few years to cotton on to it, and it's been going on for much longer than we can even credibly put our finger on. It's gotten bad. These are no longer government schools. The entire institution of education and academia in the United States has been captured by the enemies of the United States of America. The entire institution is a captured entity. It is no longer a government school. They are communist schools. Their objective is to convert your children through propaganda and emotional, spiritual, and intellectual abuse into useless eaters, into sexual degenerates, into non-productive, non-reproducing sociopaths. And yes, I do mean sociopaths. They want your children to be sociopaths. They are indoctrinating them to be so dedicated to the proposition that they will willingly go out and martyr themselves for the cause, like Alex Preddy or Renee Good. Right? They're turning them into little suicide bombers in the hopes that they can get a headline that says, ICE murders 5-year-old. That's the point to this. They got traction with ICE kills mother dropping off her kids, which was a lie, but they still got traction out of it. In fact, they got enough traction to hold the protest that we're discussing this morning. They got traction out of ICE kills nurse. ICE kills VA nurse. The statement is a lie, but it still gets them the traction. They got more agitprop traction with ICE arrests 5-year-old. It was a lie. ICE did not arrest the 5-year-old. ICE showed up to arrest the hostile foreign invader who happened to have a 5-year-old son, who abandoned his 5-year-old son in a freezing car to run from the ICE agents, and then the child's mother refused to take the child into custody. But what does the headline say? The headline says that ICE kidnapped the 5-year-old to use him as bait to try and lure out the father. The objective, make no mistake, the objective of these morally bankrupt sexual degenerates that are shoving your children out of the school onto the streets with signs and telling them that Orange Hitler's evil brown shirts are here to hate all the brown people. The point is they want your children to get killed so that they can put dead kids on the covers of newspapers, so they can put dead kids in headlines and make the argument that Donald Trump makes dead kids. They want dead kids. That is their objective. Guys, we live out here in rural Georgia. And let me tell you something. The Georgia Military College and Georgia College in Milledgeville is just over a half an hour up the road from us. There were students out there handing out flyers for the ICE out shutdown protests last week, getting ready for the nationwide strike, the general strike that was supposed to occur this past Friday. That's who these people are. They're going out of their way to create the circumstances most likely, to result in violence, to result in tragedy. Because nothing would serve their narrative better than dead kids in headlines. And make no mistake, when they get their dead kids in the headlines, every Democrat voter has blood on their hands. Because if you choose to vote, and you should, it's not just your right, it is your responsibility. But if you choose to do it, much like operating a firearm or a motor vehicle, if you have not educated yourself on the process, you've not educated yourself on the safety mechanisms and safety procedures, and the result is dead bodies, then you bear responsibility for that. Okay? If you vote Democrat, you are the same as a drunk driver. You made a choice to do a dangerous but necessary activity, and you were impaired and ill-trained to take that activity responsibly and seriously. All right? No VUIs, voting under the influence. So, all right, guys, I got to put a pen in it right there because I still got to get ready and get out the door and go to work. So, thanks for watching this morning, guys. We love you. Y'all be safe out there, and we will see you tomorrow.